Welcome back, everybody. Today we're here with Matt Noble, who has been in marketing and communications leadership roles for over a decade. His passions include filmmaking, coffee, tourism, and his family. He currently serves as president at the Bluegrass Tourism Marketing Association, a role he has had for the last year and a half. Currently living and working here in Lexington, Kentucky, and in the studio today. Matt, how are you doing?
Doing very well. Thanks for having me on.
It is good to have you. I'm excited to get into a great conversation on tourism and the effect here in the Bluegrass area and your experience with that. But before we do, let's jump into some quick icebreakers. Matt, this might not be true for you, but I've had some cool answers to this question. Is there a food combination that you enjoy that might make other people lose faith in you as a human? Something like really
This was
chaotic.
not on the outline. Let me think about that for a second. That might cause me. Oh, so one that I've kind of been surprised at. It's a mainstream like, but recently I've introduced people to it and they have not been on the bandwagon. And that's affogatos.
Okay.
Have you had an affogato before? So for the audience, that's a shot of espresso pulled over a scoop of ice cream. It's
Yes.
very good.
I have had it once years ago as like a post dinner. Yeah, like it was an option.
Yeah.
I'll have an espresso for just by itself with like a lemon peel, but that was offered once, and so I've won one time ages ago,
Man,
and people aren't down for it. You said
No,
okay.
no, it's been hit and miss. So I have a small espresso machine at our house. I love coffee. I get some locally roasted beans. They're ground fresh for every shot that I pull. And I've had several friends who are just not a fan of the bitter with the sweet, which
That's amazing.
I'm here for it. Coffee with almost anything I'm here for.
Okay.
But
Well,
yeah, that's kind of surprised me.
you can offer that to me anytime, and I will definitely pump your stock up for it. So
Good
yeah,
deal.
I'll get behind it. All right. I'm curious, if you had the chance to go to space, would you do it?
This is actually an interesting question. It comes up in our household semi-regularly. I love space exploration. I think it's incredible. I am astonished and enamored by the idea of space exploration. One of my favorite movies of all time is Apollo 13. It's just super well done. And the story, the human element there is just amazing. I want to say yes,
Yeah.
but I also know my physical limitations, and I know what current space travel does to the human body. It's pretty rigorous.
Yep.
That being said, a few celebrities have been up to space recently, including an octogenarian. So, if William Shatner can do it, maybe I can do it too.
Maybe I could do it.
I get nervous on roller coasters. They're not my thing. So like that sensation of that big drop kind of like, it's pretty hard for me to handle. So I don't know if I could do
Sure.
space.
To me, space, it is an interesting question because I think the first time I considered how serious of a query that was the movie Ad Astra with Brad Pitt. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's great.
I feel like that's one of the most sombering looks at what we're potentially dealing with. It's very real. It's kind of dark and hard to handle. It's not like flowery and like, oh, this is fun. It's like, no, it's actually kind of grueling and like this could happen in this situation. I think it would look very similar to that movie. So I've had a very healthy respect for what that means to go to space, and that it's not we're all gonna own a planet or something crazy. It's pretty sombering. So yeah, I'm always curious to.
It's definitely less Star Trek and something a little bit more gritty. And I even think Interstellar is a great example of just how it alienates us from one another and from even ourselves in some situations, just what it does to the human. But we're really in one of my favorite topics, films. So we need to get back to
Got to get back to what we started off here. So yeah, let's do a quick recap from you've been in marketing leadership obviously for a while now, and coming into the BTMA, the Bluegrass Tourism Marketing Association. Tell me, was there any sort of revelation, epiphany that you had in terms of what you've done in marketing previously for what could be like a brand or a company to now an entire region, right? We think of bluegrass, right? And I think even defining bluegrass is helpful for people maybe who are not from here that don't understand what that means. But tell me if there was a shift for you, if that felt like something you had to think of differently from what you've done in marketing in the past to in the bluegrass and representing that. Maybe there's not a whole lot of technological difference for you, but I'd be curious to your thoughts on that just starting out.
Yeah. So I'm going to take that question. I'm going to tweak it just a little bit because I think one of the parts of the role that I did not until it was being discussed by the board, members of the board, as we kind of went into one of our elections. You don't think about how many different needs there are from Lexington all the way down to Berea over to Woodford County. There's just a lot of different small businesses, especially. BTMA the membership has grown a lot within the small business sector. So when small business groups are coming to us and saying, hey, we just want more visibility, or hey, we want to have access to some resources and connections, and this is who we are and this is where we're from, and those are very different stories. You start trying to think about, okay, how can our association serve all of these needs and then represent all of those needs well to the public, to
Mm,
other organizations, or maybe government officials. And it's a lot to try to put into a single box, if that makes
yeah,
sense. And there's also a
sure.
lot of weight there. You don't want to let a group down or a company down, especially a small business when this is their livelihood, and you want to do what you can. I specifically started thinking about how heavy that is. And
Yeah,
these are people that I don't necessarily work for, like I'm not part of their company,
right, right.
but they have come to our association and said, "Hey, we want to voluntarily associate. Can you help us?"
Yeah.
And that's a big deal.
So break that down a little bit. There are people tuning in that might not actually know what the BTMA does. So I guess give us a quick breakdown of that and maybe how that differs from what people might think of like just a local convention visitors bureau or something that's thought of as like the local government entity for tourism. Like what are you
No,
guys
that's
doing
great.
differently there? Yeah.
Yeah, so we work alongside government funded and instituted organizations, but we are not that. We are member financed. And so all of the dues that are paid by our member organizations stay within our organization or are used to further the needs and the interests of the member organizations. So we are truly just a voluntary association of groups within the hospitality and tourism marketplace. So that can range from a hotel and a restaurant to an experience like Keeneland or an attraction. Sometimes that might be labeled as an attraction and everything in between. We even had, for a while, we had a member who did like farm to table stuff and had a small goat farm and did like yoga with goats.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
that's an attraction. Like there's a market for that, and they would bring people in from different counties. Like it's something that you're willing to maybe drive and do for a fun Saturday morning kind of experience. And so a lot of people don't realize that most tourism in Kentucky is from people within Kentucky. It's
Yes.
almost 50% of the economic impact of tourism happens from travelers who are Kentuckians, which is great. Is great. We love our state. We love to experience everything that the state has to offer. But that just means that when we are looking at customers and we're looking at people who are visiting and getting their attention, it means we're looking at distant neighbors, right? So
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
for sure. So when you think of like member success, I'm curious an entity that exists, for businesses, small businesses to join and then be represented. What is the success output there? Or maybe it's both. Is it that, you help a smaller town or an attraction gain exposure they wouldn't have? Or are you kind of bringing that attention and that awareness to the company that's represented there? Like, which I'm sure it's both, right? But is there one that's more heavily known or examples that you'd see more often one way or the other?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it is kind of both. But I think what we see a lot of is the value of networking because sometimes you have a problem that other people have already solved. And if you're willing to have conversations, vulnerable conversations sometimes with other people in an association, you can find solutions to that problem that are either cheaper, faster, more efficient, or whatever. And so that's especially for smaller businesses. A lot of times you're just trying to get day by day, right? You're just jumping over each hurdle as you encounter it. And so a lot of people have done this already in some way and you can network, find solutions that you didn't expect. Obviously, there is a visibility. That's one of our missions, is to raise general awareness of all of our member organizations as attractions or as hotel and lodging opportunities, eating opportunities, experiences of some sort. A great success story, I think, of one of our organizations is the Sound Healing Center of Lexington, which is it is a small business, and one of our members is has started it up a couple of years ago, right at the beginning of kind of this new health tourism boom that started taking place after COVID. And there are people that come to her little business from across the United States now. It was at first, it
Okay.
was kind of like an
Wow.
hour away was where she was seeing people come from. And now she's getting clients all the way from Michigan, which is
Wow.
just mind blowing. But the
Yeah.
success that she has had came from not just connections and her own hard work, but just people getting to experience it. So one of the things that we do as an organization is we try to give opportunities to our members to showcase what they do for an experience for a potential client or customer. And so one of the things that we all got to do as as member organizations one month was we went to the Sound Healing Center of Lexington. We got to experience what a session would be like. Got pictures taken, some video. We did a podcast episode with her as a guest, and it's a cool experience.
Yeah. That's cool.
And that's one of the things that we try to offer to our members is, hey, show others what you do. You'll get an SEO bump, you'll get some social bump, you'll get a lot of recognition locally because the people who are members at BTMA are some of the movers and shakers, names that you'll
Mm.
recognize, people from Keeneland, people from Marriott Griffin Gate, and a lot of other really recognized institutions around Lexington.
Yeah. That's awesome. So let's dive into the economics a little bit. You mentioned a stat a second ago about how 50% of tourism is coming from within the state, which I think is really cool. So talk about that from an economic standpoint and how significant that is for the bluegrass region more broadly. And real quickly, just go ahead and define bluegrass for maybe people who aren't from here that don't know what bluegrass is, because I think a lot of
Sure.
people think that encompasses the entire state of Kentucky when it is a bit more specific than that. But yeah, just when people think of Kentucky and or the bluegrass, I think they're going to immediately go to bourbon and horse farms, right? Those are just big ticket obvious things, but maybe unsung heroes or more quietly less known factors that actually are generating significant revenue that might be kind of underneath the mainstream.
For sure. So the bluegrass is Fayette County, the surrounding connected counties. So there are, I believe, 9 counties that are considered part of the bluegrass region. And that bluegrass region has an economic impact from tourism of over $2 billion, or at least that was the statistic from 2024. We haven't received the full workup from the state in 2025. But we punch above our weight for the population that we have. And you mentioned some of the reasons that we do. Bourbon is huge. It has been huge across the United States and the world for a long time, increasingly so until just relatively recently. And then horses are huge. Right? We have Keeneland, that is one of our member organizations that has been around and experienced wild success, continues to grow and sell it every single year. There are other things. I mentioned health tourism is growing in our region. There's a lot of interesting things that have popped up on the radar, whether it's sound healing or like if you've seen like salt cave experiences or
Yes. Huh?
floating
Yeah.
sensory deprivation floats, things like that. They are really popping up. A lot of different spa alternative experiences that have been relatively popular recently. And first movers are always really rewarded a lot of times.
Hmm.
And Kentucky is just slightly behind other markets like California. Those types of things have existed in California for a long time. And the state has seen a lot of relocations from California. So, they always talk about how most Californians are moving to Texas. That's where all the industries are going from California tech. But, we receive tens of thousands of relocations from
Yeah.
California every year. So there's a rising demand for certain things that haven't existed here before. And so we're seeing those things pop up. And I think maybe over the next year, we're going to see a lot of new heavy hitters in the industry, which is exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. What, give me an idea of maybe top couple things that you see on the horizon in terms of new industries or growing industries maybe that haven't present, but that would substantially increase, over the next decade or
Yeah.
so.
Interesting. So I think we might see more interest in rail. People are getting to experience trains in a new way. The Bluegrass has a long history in rail transportation, whether that is people or just cargo. And a lot of our old train tracks have been converted into experiences in some way. So that might be rail explorers out in Versailles, Woodford County, where you get to kind of pedal your way down a train track, an old retired train track, and kind of just experience the countryside. Right? It's a little bit isolating. It's relaxing. It's quiet. It's a little bit of an exercise, but you get to enjoy the beauty along the way. And another thing, we have a great train museum out in Woodford County as well. And there are several experiences available on weekends where you're able to get on an old train and take a small trip, maybe with Santa Claus if the season is right, or for a meal or something like that. Those experiences exist in a couple of the counties in the Bluegrass area, and I think they are rising in popularity because people are looking for something just slightly different, something that's affordable but feels unique and special. And
Yeah,
when you're looking around going, okay, what's unique and special? And you're just trying to get away from the hustle and bustle of something like Keeneland, where it's busy, or you don't want to fight crowds in downtown Lexington. What's something different? I think it's rail, and I think it's getting out into nature a little bit more. We've seen the Red River Gorge climbing really skyrocket over the past decade. I think
right.
COVID has helped that. People were looking for things to do outside.
Yeah.
So we're seeing, so technically most of the Red River Gorge does not fall in bluegrass area, but
Mhm.
we are still seeing economic impact from that as people are coming to stay in Lexington and for a couple of days doing some experiences and then going and climbing or going and paddling or they want to do the gorge. So I think that's another big thing is that's going to continue to increase in popularity and we're excited about sharing in that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that almost every industry has some degree of seasonability, and I think here in the bluegrass, you're looking at the Keeneland hot spots in the spring, and then the fall meets are obviously big rushes for the state. For this region rather for this area. But one thing that I'm always curious about is what are the things that you would look to sort of offset that, right? What are the maybe off-season strategies or things that you think do well here to help kind of balance that out a bit? Because it's not that it's bad. I think that seasonability is, it can create a good structure overall. It's not that it's a problem, but I think if you can find inventive ways to help that be not so super pronounced, it's always ideal. So I'm just curious, this kind of off the
Yeah.
cuff, have you seen or witnessed sort of strategic play there to help with that particularly?
We do talk about a lot of seasonality, but I think one of the nice things about Lexington is there's only really one, maybe two slow seasons, and they're pretty short between horse racing. So spring and fall are very big for a lot of different things. Horse racing is one of the major ones in Lexington, but sports are too. And we have
Mm-hmm.
a ton of folks come for sports. And those seasons are a little bit longer than horse racing. And so you'll see that even though there's a large peak during something like Keeneland,
Mm-hmm.
it's still leveled out by the UK basketball team, or there's football in the fall. And really, your travel slow time is for just like 1 month out of the year. Our organization only takes a month off every year, and that's July. And
Okay.
everyone just kind of needs a break because we've been
Sure.
grinding out for 6 months and
Yeah.
trying to meet the needs of the tourism demand so far in the season, and then kind of collect our breath and then jump into fall because as soon as school is back, that's all the universities because we have about half a dozen universities in our bluegrass region.
Mm-hmm.
and everyone's back for horse racing, football, and the colors, the fall colors were known for. I've run into people in a local bakery, and I saw when they got out of their car, they had a out of state license plate. And I asked them what they were in town for, and they're like, "We're just here for all of the fall colors." And I was like, I
Awesome.
mean, great. I would not have thought that was the biggest draw, because Lexington, we do have some really beautiful areas, and the Red River Gorge is gorgeous in the fall. But you would think that it wouldn't be the thing that is popping up at the very top of people's SEO, right?
Sure.
But it's starting to. And so
Yeah.
our seasonality really is not having as many dips as one might think if you're just looking at bourbon and horses.
Yeah. That's great. Well, that's good. Now, obviously, tourism brings people in, right? That's the idea. Sustainably, you have to be able to have people that can meet that demand as people are coming in. So, working with the hospitality industry as much as you guys do you see a lot of effects, particularly in the labor market? Now, I know labor and statistics might not
Mm,
be something that you're immediately involved in, but I'm curious just because of the proximity to hospitality, if there's a large effect there in terms of hotels and restaurants and that type of thing being affected in the bluegrass in particular, as it might be in other regions.
yeah. So that's actually a great question. I do think about workforce a lot. One of the things
Okay,
that
good.
our organization, in many ways, the company that I work for is always talking about workforce. And then also
Hmm.
BTMA is talking about workforce a lot too. There's a lot of churn in hospitality
Okay,
industry.
yeah,
For
for
better or for
sure.
worse, it's kind of a difficult grind sometimes, and you it can be taxing if you're not taking care of yourself. And so
Hmm.
what we do see is folks will go as far as they can with an organization, a company, an employer, whether that's a hotel or a restaurant or something like that. And they will give everything they've got, and then they're like, okay, I need something else. I need
Hmm.
to look for a new option that can give me a reset physically or mentally, emotionally, whatever the case may be. And so we do see a little bit of hopping. Hopping is fine, but it doesn't increase the workforce, right? It doesn't
Hmm.
solve
Right.
a problem. It just means that the folks that are valuable are staying within the system. And they're just bouncing around
Hmm.
from hotel to hotel or restaurant to
Hmm.
restaurant. What we need are well trained entry level folks who are coming in. They know how their way around a restaurant. They know the way around hospitality, and they know their way around tourism. We are seeing different organizations and different people rise to that challenge and to that need. A great partner of ours is the Kentucky Restaurant Association, and they have an educational program here in Lexington, and they also have several across the state, one in Louisville, that takes kids in high school and gives them chef training skills, how to use knives and how to do kitchen prep, how to do these types of things that are really valuable day one when you start in a restaurant. That helps them succeed and then climb a ladder within an organization,
Mm.
especially if you're at either a nicer restaurant or a large national chain, something like Texas Roadhouse or something that has room for growth and not just you know a smaller quick service kind of scenario. And so that program that the Kentucky Restaurant Association does has really bloomed. We're excited to be supporting that. And in fact, our speaker for this coming month is the president and CEO of the Kentucky Restaurant Association,
Cool.
Casey Roof. She's great. Another example of meeting workforce needs is UK. University of Kentucky has a tourism and hospitality track, and they partner with local organizations trying to get young people plugged in before they're graduating so that they can get real skills built up and they can have a real career path kind of laid out or at least strategized before they're just kind of dumped out after graduation. And so we see a lot of internships locally within larger organizations or government adjacent entities like Visit Lex
Hmm.
always has a great team of interns, and we'll see some of those at the larger hotels as well. And so things like that are, I think, the solution to the
Mm.
problem of workforce, right? So as people get more and more afraid of AI or computers replacing uh,
Yeah.
human work,
Hmm.
which I think is true if you sit at a computer. We do
Right.
not see that taking place in the skilled trades or in the service industry. Computers can take orders at like McDonald's,
Sure.
but we're not seeing them enter the kitchen like a lot of people have been afraid of. We're not seeing them enter into housekeeping or even hotel management for events, planning, things like that. Still a human touch required, and it
Hmm.
requires a lot of niche skills that our partners and member organizations are willing to train.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you think that, and you answered this a little bit with some like maybe the experiences people are looking for now post COVID, but do you think the overall visitor profile to the bluegrass has changed? Obviously, you've been at the head of BTMA for the last, year and a half, couple years, but is there data that's shown maybe in the last 5 to 10 years how that profile has changed much or even at all? I'm just kind of curious. Like, is there a particular thing that's changed that demographic, if it's changed?
Yeah. So I don't know anything about what the state has seen in the past few months. I think if I had to venture a guess, it has changed pretty significantly in the past 6 months ish, maybe a year. But right prior to that, we were seeing a significant uptick in international travel to Kentucky. It was back in 2024 a premium destination for a lot of folks coming from Europe. You would see people from Scotland, England, Belgium, France, Spain, and they would come and they would do the bourbon tour and they would do horse experiences and other things of that nature. And I was excited about that because I think the more that we can start seeding Kentucky as the like best alternative destination, because a lot of people when they visit the United States, they're doing a couple different things. They might do East or West Coast. They might do like national parks or big sporting or some kind of entertaining event, maybe Vegas. But when you think about like what else attracts people to the United States, bourbon and horses doesn't probably come up in Americans' minds, but it was coming up in the minds of our European neighbors. So that was exciting. I don't know if that's true right now, but just given some of the socio-political scenarios that have played
Sure,
out.
sure.
But that was the trend, and, I would like to see us get back to that.
Yeah,
As great as it is to be a favorite for folks within state or Ohio or Tennessee, those are other big, visitor counts. I think it's really valuable to us to have high-end luxury visitors from Europe or other international locations seeing us as a premium destination long term.
yeah. That's awesome. That's
Yeah, sooner
awesome.
we can get back to that,
It's
the
good.
better.
The better, for sure. Well, Matt, this has been great. As kind of like a wrap up, and this just kind of for fun and maybe might be helpful to people as well. Let's say you had a friend coming to visit here in Lexington or close by, 48 hours, right? And they say, Matt, I'm coming to town. You're the president of the BTMA. Where are you going to send me? Where do I go for 2 days to get the experience, to get the best return on investment?
Man, it just depends on what you want to do because there's so many options. I love sending people to Keeneland, even if you're not a horse race person. It's just beautiful. It's a great experience. Our tour guides over at Keeneland are just top notch. You can't beat them. And there's just a lot of wonderful experiences there that are not just races. So whether there's races or not, I send people to Keeneland. I think it's awesome. It's a great experience. There are a lot of great distilleries in the area too, from Woodford County. Even here in Fayette County, there's a couple of great distilleries and great tours. And I send people on those tours. Those are kind of classics, but we have some really fun local food scenes too, depending on what people's desires are and how adventurous they are. I'll send them to a couple different places and even food trucks here in town that I love to frequent. And one on my bucket list right now, personally, even is to get on that historic train ride with my son during Christmas time.
Awesome.
And I'm looking forward to this season. He was a little bit too young this past year, but he's going to be 4 this year, and I'm stoked.
That's
There's
awesome.
truly, whether you want to rock climb or you want to sip the bourbon or you want to see a show, we're starting to see Lexington and the surrounding area, the Bluegrass region, just pull a lot of people in, and that's
Yeah.
exciting. It's cool to share your town.
Yeah, it is, and it's cool to see that we're getting so many variegated possibilities, right, for different
Oh
experiences
yeah,
and not have it be like a real monolithic type of thing, so
It's true. The
That's
more
amazing.
variation there is, the better off we'll be because it's almost
Yes.
like diversifying risk in a portfolio of investments.
Yep.
But it's true because if something happens where it's like, oh, I can't do this because it's sold out, whether that's a tour or maybe it rains out Keeneland. Like, what are you going to do?
Mhm.
And there are
Yep.
great food tours downtown, right?
Yes.
There
Yes.
are incredible experiences, shows at the Opera House that are just really great. Better than you would think a small regional city like Lexington would pull. But we've got a great team of folks in our tourism industry here, and they're doing a great job.
I agree. Well, Matt, you're doing a great job, and it has been a pleasure getting to hear from you today and get to dive into some of this with you. So thanks so much for coming on. Look forward to, following up maybe down the road and seeing how things progress from here. Tell people the best place to go if they're going to get connected with the BTMA or reach out to
Yeah.
you about membership, that type of thing. Where should they be sent?
Yeah, btmaky.org is our website. Highly recommend. We have events every month, whether that's a cocktail hour for just networking and meeting some folks if you don't have a ton of time. But we also have a monthly meeting where we have a keynote speaker and we go to either an experience or a great restaurant in town. They get to show off a little bit, whether that's a small tour or make some of their best food. And we connect and mentor or be mentored, hear from some great folks who know everything about the business. So highly encourage you to check out one of our meetings and check out membership at btmaky.org.
Well, thanks, Matt. I hope you have a great rest of the week. It has been a pleasure talking with you today, and we'll look forward to catching up down the road.
Thanks, Aram.
All right. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.